All right, guys, so the cat's out the bag, and the PTO have announced the T100 Tour. Here we go. Lots of chat about it, lots of speculation around dates, races, venues, and yeah, just super, super proud to firstly be selected as one of the athletes to represent on the PTO Tour. The PTO have rebranded to the T100 Tour, so we're all trying to get a bit more familiar with calling it by the correct name. The PTO are still the governing body behind it, but the T100 Tour is the brand name going forward. Yeah, we're incredibly excited. Obviously, long course triathlon, there's been a lot of different platforms for us to race on, and it's been, I think the entire season gets quite dispersed, and people go in their different ways, maybe race within their regions, and everybody comes together at the Ironman World Championships. Ironman have dominated the space of long course triathlon for a long time now, and rightly so. They've been the biggest provider for professional athletes, for age group athletes, and have laid a great foundation for the sport of triathlon. But the PTO have come in, been slightly disruptive, of course, but have been wonderful for the PTO, for the PTO members, as well as us as athletes who get to race their events. Kind of looking back a little bit, traditionally speaking, you would qualify for an Ironman World Championship. They've changed the qualification criteria over the years, but there was a point system, and then they moved to a one-race qualification system, which they're currently still running today, where as a professional athlete, you have to compete in an Ironman event, and qualify for the World Championships through the position that you get on race day. Moving forward in 2024, it's becoming increasingly difficult to try and balance those two avenues of triathlon now. We mustn't forget that Ironman is a brand in the end of the day, and they host triathlon events, but they don't own long course triathlon. Long course triathlon has taken on very many different roles and has sort of different distances that we compete in, from your 70.3s to now the new 100K distance. ITU have hosted their long course world championships for many years, up until the full Ironman distance. Companies like Challenge have got Challenge Roth. So I think for spectators, it gets quite confusing. There's all these different platforms, multiple world champions over different distances. And what I really like about the PTO is that they are trying to be very direct and straightforward, getting the best of the best together on a regular basis, race one another throughout the season, have that season-long narrative that they keep telling us about, build stories, build rivalries, and in the end of the day, with their partnership with World Triathlon, crown a world champion over the T100 distance. I've had a lot of messages over the last week or so since the news is broken, about just kind of like asking for an explanation of how this tour works, what does it mean, how did you qualify, and I've gone into a bit of detail with those individual people, but I think on the wider triathlon spectator platform, a lot of people are still struggling to grasp the basics and the foundation of it. So yeah, this video today is just to try and explain it a little bit. It did evolve, and it was quite a dynamic and loose development process in 2023. But once the PTO themselves had an idea with the T100 Tour, it was always their intention to host a tour, but the qualification around that was always a little bit grey area for us athletes. Unfortunately, I think a few athletes did miss this qualification criteria, not through any real fault of their own, but just as a result of the two dates qualification system. They kind of missed the ball there. But you know what? Like, it's impossible not to have a completely clean slate. So the PTO have done the best to be as open and transparent as they can be to us as athletes. And in the end, they settled on 20 men and 20 women who qualified for the PTO, well, for the T100 Tour for 2024. The top 16 men and top 16 women, according to the PTO rankings, qualified based on their ranking position. And then there were 4, what they are terming hotshot athletes. these athletes bring a lot of media attention. They historically have got great results. They are Olympic gold medalists, and definitely deserve their spot in the tour, and will bring hopefully a lot of eyes onto the racing itself. Yeah. So the big question is, what is the T100 Tour? Very basically, it is 8 races spread across the world, beginning in March 9th in Florida, and ending at the grand final, which has yet to be announced, but it is in the UAE somewhere. But yeah, super exciting race series, taking us all over the world. It's 3 races in North America, Singapore, Ibiza, Las Vegas, Dubai, and then yeah, the grand final end of November. So super excited. It's going to be a very busy season. It's very difficult to manage your season now for those of us like myself who do not have an Ironman World Championship qualification yet. It definitely adds some complexity to the season. Whether or not you want to go after an Ironman qualification. Of course, we know that you have to qualify through racing an Ironman and getting your slot or earning your slot to the World Championships. And yeah, I mean, that question remains to be answered. Let me know in the comments down below if you think it's something that I should go after, or if I should just focus on the PTO Tour. I must say, personally, I've really found like a lot of motivation that's come from this distance. Coming back to the name, the T100, it's obviously named after the distance of the race. It's 100 kilometers, 2-kilometer swim, 80-kilometer bike, and an 18-kilometer run. It is a distance that the PTO have gravitated towards and really pushed, and it's actually a super fun distance to race. It has that feeling of like an Olympic distance race. Of course, it's a little bit longer, and it allows the long course athletes to hopefully show a little bit of their strengths and the advantages that we've gained over racing multiple years over the longer distance events. But it also allows your Olympic distance athletes to come in and I think really believe that they can perform well over that distance. So yeah, I'm really excited about the distance. I personally have been putting a lot of time in on the track, working with my coaches to try and refine some of my speed. Obviously, with my focus in 2023 being on Ironman World Champs in Nice, we spent a lot of time in the mountains. I think it's well publicized now, but I spent a lot of time in Andorra training with Jan, and it was amazing, seeing Jan out and seeing the end of his career, an elaborate career that stretched 20 plus years. And yeah, he's left the sport in a great place, and him and I really attacked the PTO Milwaukee event in 2023, and he obviously won the race. I was 7th there. It was my best PTO performance of the year. And yeah, I'm really excited to try and build on that momentum that we got in 2023. Being an 8-race series, we are contracted in to do 6 of them. So it'll be 5 races plus the grand final will equal your 6 events for the season. You are welcome to race all of them as a contracted athlete if you would like. But if you have ambitions to race over the long course and maybe go to Ironman World Champs, you could maybe be a little bit more selective in your season and maybe skip out one of the mid-season races, put an Ironman in there, try and get your qualification slot, and then race Ironman World Championships for the men, which will be in Kona, and of course the women are racing in Nice this year. Yeah, it's been interesting. A few athletes have come out. I mean, the current Ironman World Champion, Lucy Charles, has decided that she'll skip Ironman racing completely this year. Unfortunately, we seem to have got a bit of backlash from that. It's very difficult position for athletes to be in, and I don't think there's anything wrong with an athlete choosing to focus entirely on the PTO Tour, focusing entirely on the Ironman, the Ironman series. The Ironman Pro Series has been a great addition to the landscape of professional racing. I think Ironman saw that the PTO were coming in and offering a great platform for professionals, and it worked. You know, there were a lot of athletes really excited and drawn towards the PTO events. And Ironman saw that and stepped up and put up a great amount of prize money for the Ironman series. And the athletes who choose to focus on that series, I wish them all the best. They're going to have to do at least 3 Ironmans plus 2 70.3s in the season. So that's going to also be a very busy year, very competitive as well. So Yeah, I think it's going to be a very exciting season, and it's going to be interesting to see which athletes choose to race which series. Um, I personally gravitate towards the T100 Tour, and more than likely you'll see me do, if not all eight, at least seven of the eight races. I'm trying to sort of restructure my training in a way that I can really focus in on what the PTO distance is going to require me as an athlete. I think it's going to take probably my best swimming times or splits or my best swimming condition to even make it into these races. You must remember it's only 20 of us racing now, so the field is pretty, while it is incredibly deep in terms of strength and competitiveness, it's still going to be relatively small field, so it could blow out quite easily, and you might find yourself in a position where you're actually doing a lot of the race on your own. But I don't necessarily suspect that's going to happen. I think everyone who's racing is going to be of quite similar conditioning. So yeah, it should make for some really exciting racing, and I look forward to getting my teeth stuck into it, and hopefully I'll be in the mix come 9th of March in Florida. The first race, of course, being at Clash Miami. Currently training in Stellenbosch, and it's, we're hitting 40 degrees Celsius on a regular basis now. So I feel like my heat adaptation has gone really, really well. So Florida heat or humidity shouldn't be a problem. And then we move across to Singapore, where, again, it's going to be a hot and humid race. So I really look forward to that one. We raced in Ibiza last year, so we're going back there, I think in September. And then Lake Las Vegas is a new event on the calendar. So yeah, it's a very exciting sort of structure to the season. It should make for some good dynamic racing. It'll be interesting to see where people choose to kind of focus in, and maybe, for example, an athlete like myself coming out of the Southern Hemisphere, I believe we tend to go really well in the beginning of the season and then struggle to hold on to that form towards the end of the year. So I'm trying to use that momentum now. It's quite easy to get fit here in the heat in Stellenbosch. So hopefully I can come out, get some good scores on the board. The T100 Tour is going to be decided on a points-based system. It's going to be your 4 best scores that count. So yeah, I think choosing to try and peak, being smart with your race selection, maybe giving yourself like a good amount of run-in to the races that you think suit you pretty well, will line yourself up to get some good points on the board. And I believe that Florida and Ibiza are 2 pretty good opportunities for me to at least get a good foothold on the season, and then see how it develops from there. I have certainly not counted Ironman out just yet. Yeah, it's been a very difficult decision because for the past 2 years I've been like almost solely focused on the Ironman distance. And now with the T100 Tour, it's definitely not thrown a spanner in the works, but it's changed the dynamic quite a bit. And yeah, I might see an entire season where I don't race an Ironman event, but I certainly will be back on an Ironman start list at some point. Will it be in 2024? I'm not so sure, but yeah, I do look forward to that challenge, and ultimately Nice 2025 will be another big goal of mine. So yeah, I think a lot of people think that the PTO and Ironman are in competition with one another, and it might seem that way, but for us as athletes, we don't view it that way. We just see it as a great landscape for us to have awesome choice. And yeah, I look forward to getting stuck into the season, follow along, and yeah, hopefully we can entertain you guys, and let us know what you want to see in the next video.